If you took DNA from a Jewish person living in New York today and compared it to DNA from a medieval Jewish cemetery in Germany, you'd find something impossible. They're genetically connected by an unbroken thread spanning over 1,000 years. But here's the kicker. That same modern New Yorker would also share genetic markers with a Sephardic Jew from Morocco, a Mizrahi Jew from Iraq, and an Ethiopian Jew from the Horn of Africa. But it doesn't stop there. It gets even weirder. Despite being scattered across every continent for 2,000 years, speaking dozens of different languages, and adapting to wildly different climates, Jewish populations worldwide share more genetic similarity with each other than with their non-Jewish neighbors. But the most shocking discovery? 4 founding mothers who lived in Europe 1,000 years ago were the ancestors of 2/5 of all Ashkenazi Jews. We're talking about a genetic bottleneck so extreme, it defies everything we know about population genetics. Today we're cracking the code of one of genetics' most incredible mysteries. How did a people maintain their genetic identity while being scattered to the 4 corners of the earth? Picture this. So it's 3,000 years ago in the ancient Levant, the crossroads of Africa, Asia, and Europe. Here, a population emerges that will become the genetic blueprint for Jewish ancestry worldwide. The 3 main ethnic Jewish groups, Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and Mizrahi, share common ancestral and genetic roots in the ancient Levant. But here's where the story gets fascinating. Unlike other ancient populations that either disappeared or were completely absorbed by conquerors, this Levantine Jewish population did something unprecedented. They preserved their genetic signature while spreading across 3 continents. Recent genetic studies have mapped this ancient DNA like a molecular fingerprint. The Middle Eastern component shows up consistently in Jewish populations worldwide, regardless of where they ended up living. It's like finding the same genetic passport stamped with Levant 3000 BCE in communities from Poland to Morocco to Yemen. The craziest part? DNA from people who returned to Israel in the 20th century matched the genetic signatures of the land their ancestors left 2,000 years ago. It's like having a genetic GPS that maintained its coordinates through millennia of displacement. Now we get to the most incredible part of the Jewish genetic story, the Ashkenazi bottleneck. 4 founding mothers who lived in Europe 1,000 years ago were the ancestors of 2/5 of all Ashkenazi Jews. We're talking about roughly 10 million people today who can trace their maternal lineage back to just 4 women. This is population genetics on steroids. Most populations that experience such severe bottlenecks either die out or suffer devastating genetic consequences. But Ashkenazi Jews not only survived, they thrived. But here's the new twist that's rewriting textbooks. The largest study to date of ancient DNA from Jewish individuals reveals unexpected genetic subgroups in medieval German Ashkenazi Jews. The founder event wasn't just about 4 women, it was about complex population dynamics that created subgroups within the Ashkenazi population we're only now discovering. The implications are staggering. This genetic bottleneck created one of the most genetically cohesive populations on Earth, while simultaneously preserving enough diversity to avoid the usual problems of inbreeding. It's a biological paradox that challenges everything we know about population genetics. Fast forward to 70 CE. The Second Temple is destroyed, and the Great Jewish Diaspora begins. Imagine families being scattered to the wind, some heading north into Europe, others west across North Africa, some staying in the Middle East. In any normal scenario, this would be the end of genetic coherence. Separated populations usually diverge rapidly, mixing with local populations and developing distinct genetic signatures. But Jewish populations did something that defies population genetics textbooks. The latest studies show genetic connections among all Jews, despite widespread migrations. Ashkenazi Jews in Eastern Europe, Sephardic Jews in Spain and North Africa, and Mizrahi Jews in the Middle East all preserved their genetic connection to each other and to their ancient Levantine origins. Picture 3 groups of siblings getting separated at birth and raised on different continents, yet somehow maintaining family resemblances. That's essentially what happened with Jewish populations. Through religious laws about marriage, community cohesion, and cultural identity, Jewish populations maintained their genetic integrity across continents and centuries. It's like they developed a biological immune system against genetic assimilation. Here's where Jewish genetics gets really interesting. Those population bottlenecks created one of genetics' most fascinating paradoxes. On one hand, genetic bottlenecks usually mean trouble. Ashkenazi Jews do carry higher frequencies of certain genetic diseases, Tay-Sachs, Gaucher disease, and others. It's the price paid for genetic isolation. But here's the plot twist. Ashkenazi Jews also show some of the highest average IQ scores of any population and have won Nobel Prizes at rates far exceeding their proportion of the global population. Some researchers suggest that the same genetic isolation that caused disease susceptibility may have also led to cognitive advantages. The genetics are hotly debated, but the patterns are undeniable. The Ashkenazi genetic bottleneck created a population with both unique medical challenges and remarkable intellectual achievements. It's evolution in action, showing how genetic isolation can have both positive and negative consequences. Chapter 5. The modern genetic renaissance, DNA testing, reveals hidden history. The 21st century has brought a genetic revolution to Jewish identity. Consumer genetic testing has revealed that Jewish ancestry is more widespread and complex than anyone imagined. People are discovering hidden Sephardic ancestry, unexpected Ashkenazi roots, and connections to Jewish populations they never knew existed. Descendants of conversos, forced converts from centuries ago, are finding their genetic connections to Jewish populations worldwide. Modern testing can identify Jewish genetic signatures. So, what's the ultimate secret of Jewish DNA? It's the most incredible survival story in human genetics. A 3,000-year-old genetic time machine that somehow kept running despite everything history threw at it. Jewish populations achieved something that should be genetically impossible. They maintained genetic coherence across continents, cultures, and centuries. While empires rose and fell, while languages changed and traditions evolved, the fundamental genetic signature of Jewish identity persisted. These genetic threads form an unbroken chain connecting a modern software engineer in Silicon Valley to ancient farmers in the Levant, linking a medieval merchant in Cordoba to a contemporary professor in Tel Aviv. This isn't just a story about Jewish genetics, it's a story about the power of culture to shape biology. Through religious practices, community cohesion, and shared identity, Jewish populations overcame the usual forces of genetic drift and assimilation. The Jewish genome is humanity's most successful genetic preservation project, maintained not by governments or institutions, but by the collective action of communities preserving their identity across generations. Modern Jews carry in their DNA the genetic memories of the ancient Levant, the bottlenecks of medieval Europe, and the persistence of identity in the face of displacement. Every Jewish person alive today is a walking miracle of genetic continuity. The next time you see someone of Jewish heritage, remember, you're looking at one of genetics' greatest achievements. Their DNA carries messages written 3,000 years ago that somehow survived the destruction of temples, the scattering of populations, and the chaos of history itself. That's not just surprising, it's the closest thing to genetic immortality we've ever discovered. In a world where most ancient peoples vanished without a trace, Jewish DNA stands as proof that sometimes, impossibly, the human story endures. With remarkable precision, connecting people to specific Jewish populations and geographic origins. But here's what's most fascinating. Even in our modern mixed world, Jewish genetic signatures remain identifiable and distinct. Despite intermarriage and assimilation, the ancient genetic patterns established thousands of years ago continue to echo in modern DNA. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.